All right, guys. Hey, this is Stephen Yee. Welcome to the Sky's the Limit call. I just said my name. My name is Stephen Yee, but I'm very blessed to be able to have one of my good friends, Mr. Mac Agabor. I've known Mac for over 10 plus years, which is really, really cool. But to be able to watch his growth in this business has been very, very fun because Mac got started with us about a year and a half ago and literally went Hall of Fame his first year. So it's very hard to do because it took me like 3 years to go Hall of Fame, right? But to be able to watch his dedication, his hard work in this business to grow this thing, more importantly, to be able to see how he works with his wife, which is so awesome, but to be able to sell and build at a high level, that's another key piece. So I wanted to be able to have him kind of share with us his best practices, what he's been doing, and go from there. So Mac, you there with us?
I am. Hey, appreciate you, man.
Hey,
Thank you very much.
Dude. It was late notice, but dude, those are the best ones because we get to speak from the heart. You know what I mean? It's not scripted.
100%.
Kind of share with the folks that are on here that don't know who you are. What's your background? How'd you fall into family first life? All that good stuff.
Yeah, man. I came from a lot of things. I had tried everything from network marketing. I was a banker. I did it all trying to make money. And the last thing I did was I was in oil and gas, actually. I was doing good as a banker, good. I think I was the top guy there. And I realized, I think in the first month, actually a few months in, I probably doing was 50 a year. And I just, with the kids we had, the lifestyle, trying to help myself, my family, I think we have 4 or 5 kids at the time. And I was also helping my family in Africa. There just wasn't enough to go around.
Right.
I mean, I didn't want to make more money. I had to make more money.
Right.
And as I was thinking, I ran into a friend of mine, which, I mean, hey, I always say coincidence is when God decides to be anonymous. I mean, my wife and I are going on a date and he just happens to pass. He said, hey. And anyway, so I got that, never done anything like that before. But here's what's cool, guys. God will lead you in this journey. For those of you that are coming on board, again, I know everyone is going through a different path, but I believe that we were all meant for something greater. And it wasn't just to work and go die. It was to get the money monkey off our back so that we can go serve and help and build and help other people. And so I saw that as an opportunity and I went through what I call hell. And that's how Kim, he was a friend of mine, when he was, I said, hey, what's it like up there? He goes, it's hell. He says, are you willing to go through hell? And I said, yeah, because I needed to. I was willing to go through hell. And it was hell. I mean, negative 60-degree weather. It was tough, but came back and a lot of things happened, made good money, but I realized that there was a better way and I just didn't know what that was. And anyway, fast forward, I looked at Family First Life, a lot of things that hit me hard. I mean, from being debt-free, I mean, being broke like a joke. I mean, I made 101,000 in 6 months in the oil field and it got better and better and better. And then I got this medical situation. I had a tumor. I went from top of the line, out of debt, everything, new car, new house, to zero. And my confidence, oh man, if you can imagine how much I had to go through, I mean, a lot of stuff just to get to where I gotten. When you lose everything you've had, guys, you don't go to zero, you go to below zero.
100%.
And I was depressed, didn't feel like I could accomplish anything. And that's when, thank goodness, we linked up with myself, Joe, Steven, and I asked Steven straight up, you remember, I said, hey, can you really do this? I love what Steven told me. He said, hey, I'm bad, but he said, hey, you'll do okay doing 2 out of 10. I said, really?
Yeah.
And I had a lot of negative self-doubt. I'll be honest with you. It wasn't that FFL didn't work. It was that I wasn't sure that I worked, that I could count on myself. And I just, people say, hey, Mac did it good. I was just so scared that I would suck so bad that I wouldn't make money, that I worked hard so that I would. So fast forward, here we are. I was fortunate to be, I didn't even know what Hall of Fame was. I'll be honest with you. Steve, I got this little flyer. Hey, he hit Hall of Fame. I was like, what's that? I was just running hard.
I love that. Well, see, that's the cool part, right? Is, I remember so many agents when they start making their Hall of Fame run, their journey, they go, they get nervous because they're like, well, the pressure's on now. I'm like, if you don't feed your family, the pressure's on.
Right.
You know what I mean? So like
100%.
It was just work. It was just a different level of work. But kind of share with us, because how many people, I mean, there's 18,000, 19,000 agents at Family First Life. Not very many of them. I want to say less than, there's only 180 Hall of Fame producers. I'm willing to bet less than 20 of them did it in the first year. So like something clicked, Mac, and you're a student. That's the other part that like, you're very underrated skill set is you ask a lot of questions, and not in a sense where you're like annoying, but you're like, hey, how does this work? Well, what about this? Hey, how about this? And like, you're a student in this game. Because I remember when we first, I think in like October, November, when we spoke, you were like, hey, Steve, like explain to me the numbers. You had to educate my expectations, all this stuff. And I was like, Mac, I'm not that good, man. I just bought leads, called them, and the ones that said yes, they said yes. And then you wrote it on a few appointments with me, and I was like, don't ask me why we do it this way, but it just works. I'm very direct, and that's that, right? And then you're like, oh my gosh, I think we probably sold like 9 out of 10 families that week, right?
Yes, we did.
And then you came back from that, and you were like, boom, like straight to the top. Kind of share with people, like being a student in this, how like acquiring knowledge, right? Because that's a big deal. Like they always say, like knowledge is free, you can get it anywhere, but like what you do with it is up to you. That's what separates the people from one another. Because you can go on YouTube, there's thousands of videos on family first life and all these trainings, but how did you actually take the training, the knowledge that you have, make it applicable, and then have a result?
Yeah, no, I appreciate you asking. I think if there was a subject that should be taught in school before you go to school, it's learning how to learn. And I think it could be summarized in two things. There's activity knowledge, and then there's learning knowledge. That's what it comes down to. Now, hey, you can go to the top with just activity, but it's going to be like this, right? But if you had learning knowledge, it'll shorten your learning curve. And there's only so much learning book work you can do. So I just had I was fortunate enough to be able to at least have practiced that. So here's what I knew. If I could enroll in the school of experience, I would shorten my learning curve. And so I thought to myself, here's what I know. I mean, I know everyone is new, or people are new. You can have anything you want if you ask the right question. Anything you want. It's not that you don't have, it's just that you're not asking the right question. So I'm asking myself, whenever I want to achieve a level, what question would the Mac that's doing $1 million a month, what question would he ask? How would he change the game right now so that he can be able to prepare himself? So I started asking those questions, and that's really where it led to. I just knew that there was a way. And again, we are all different, but man, it's great to have people that are our peers. I love an FFL. You can have someone that's brown, that's black, that's red, that's purple. You see all these different people doing it, and all that tells you is that it's just the difference between them and you is work.
Right.
There is no special thing. So I remember when we went out that weekend, I just knew that there was a level of questions I needed to ask. And then when I got home, I knew I was going to suck. That was the cool thing about it. I remember after that weekend, I was like, oh, Steven, that's how you do it. I was like, boom, land on my face. But the cool thing is I just believe so much in, well, I don't know whether it was Oppenheimer. He said that if you want to succeed, you need to double and triple your rate of failure. And I say it often. I just knew I needed to suck faster. And people talk to me all the time. You probably get this, Steven, asking you about your script, asking you about this, that. It isn't so much a script problem. It's not a appointment problem. It's a dial problem. You just got to suck faster. Like, right. Go through the activity that you've learned and seen on YouTube. Just do it faster. And when I embraced that, especially when you told me 2 out of 10, man, it was game over. I just had to go do it at that point. So there's only so much knowledge you can get, but that applied knowledge is what made all, at least for me, right, made all the difference.
I love that. I mean, we just saw each other like 2-3 weeks ago. And I remember, your wife and you came up and you're like, hey, how'd you guys do this? And how'd you do this? And I'm like, I love it. This is why Mac will get there faster to so many people. Right. One of the questions that we deal with as high producing agents is people always ask us, well, how do you build an agency at the same rate of selling? Because you're selling so much, right? Yeah. How do you answer that question?
I'm gonna pull a Sean Mike. I love what he said. He says, if you haven't done it, you need to shut up and sit down. That's what Sean Mike tells you. So I've sold, and there are people that have built way better than I have. So I don't know if I'm qualified, but I'm gonna tell you what he did, because I gave him a call. I was selling high. I was helping about 50, 60, 70 families a month. I said, Sean, I'm going to build as fast as I used to be, because I used to be a great builder, but I had kind of cocooned myself because of all those challenges that I had I lost my confidence. I almost forgot how to date, if you will, right? That's all it is. I forgot that I had game, right? And this is what he told me. What he did, I replicated. He said when he was building from the beginning, he would help the number of families he needed to in 3 days a week. I mean, and at the time I was probably helping about, I don't know, 30, 40, 50 families, 60 families a month. I don't know, whatever it was. He says, you need to do that compressed time is what you need to do. Do in 3 days what you would do in a week. And then he said he sold from Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, I believe. And he did his like 50, 60 grand. I mean, whatever he did, right? 50, 60 families. And then on Monday through Wednesday, he just built a business. I said, aha. And I said, really? I could do that? And it's crazy how if you don't ask the right question, you'll never get to the right spot. I transitioned. I was kind of scared at first. I was like, oh man, I got to help 50 families in a week. Like, can I do it, man? As soon as I said it, it was done. Within 3 days, help my 15 families, spend the rest of the time building. And that's how you do it. Be very, very intentional in your time. You have to have structure. That's the key. Using your process. Now, I'm going to back you up for a second, Steve, and kind of tell you what clicked. Because I think you asked me that question. I'll be honest, if I can just give some real talk.
Please do. That's why you're here.
I was, so I started in October, helped 15 families my first month. I did about 20 the next. And I am just infatuated with scaling and growing. And even though I was doing well, I was very, very frustrated because I wanted to make sure that I could scale it. And it seemed like I've been hearing these stories of people helping 30, 40, 50, 70, 100 families a month. I'm like, how do I get there? And it seemed as if the harder I worked, it never happened. I booked a number of appointments. I remember I booked about 18, 20 appointments. And I just didn't get that. I was more frustrated. So I'll be honest with you, with all the frustrations I had, I said, man, do I have to live with this frustration the whole time? And hey, being real, I was helping 20 families a month, and I had job interviews out. I said, honey, I don't know if this is going to be it. I'm gonna have to do something else. Maybe I'll just be more low key. I'll lower down on the income. And I didn't know what I was going to do. But of course, there's nowhere that helps compensate like FFL, right? I didn't know what it was. I was actually almost get hired with the police department. And because I wanted to give back and help and all that stuff. So I did the best thing for myself. And this is, if anyone is, listening, Stephen spoke about it earlier. I went to the equivalent of a mini national conference. Here it was in Phoenix, and I wasn't sure. And I went there looking for answers. I'm wondering, how are these guys doing it? And here's what I know. When the student is ready, the teacher will appear. I had done enough activity where I was listening for the answers. So these two guys got on stage and they gave their in-home script, how they did it. These guys, they were doing 60, 70 a month. And I wrote it down. I'm listening to, I'm looking around and people are like, I'm saying, are you hearing this? This is gold here. I recorded it. I'm hearing angels singing. I got home. It was February. I think it was like February 1st through 2nd. It was a 2-day event. And that same month, I broke 42 grand. That same month, for 42 families. Next month, I did 58. Just with one tweak, I was almost there. What messed me up was I wasn't setting the table properly. So I was doing the same effort, putting the same effort in, but I just wasn't doing it didn't have the right leverage, right?
Right.
And that's when it clicked. So we don't know where you are in the process, whether you're, I think of it like a lock, maybe there's three combination clock. Maybe you're at the second, third. All we know is the information is here. The part that we can control is you. And so that's when it clicked. I allowed my activity to put my mind in the right place. And that's when it took off for me. So a little plug for conference. Here's what I'm saying. I know people are in different positions, and this is what I've always preached. If you knew, think about why you got in this business. What is it you want? If you knew the key to you helping 30, 40, 50, 20, 30, whatever number of families you want to help was at the national conference. I don't know, it was just there. What is keeping you from going there now? What excuse are you giving yourself? If you knew that you just get there 3-4 days, it's done. Would you still go, even with the current excuses you got? Most people are like, well, yeah, if I knew it was going to solve it, yeah, well, it's going to solve it because it did for me. So that's what clicks, Steve. Sorry, long answer to a short question.
That's the good part, because kind of like what I was sharing with you, it's like, I'm going to national conference. Like, what am I trying to pick up from this? Right. And it's not like you're changing this entire presentation.
Mm-mm.
You didn't change your entire presentation. You made a small adjustment to something you already did, but you just weren't doing it as effectively as someone else was doing. And see, like, that's the thing, is like, so many brand new agents are like, but I'm dialing already. Right. But you're not dialing fast enough, or you might not saying the correct opening. And it's a small adjustment. Your tone might be off. You might be too happy on the phone. You might be too depressed, whatever it may be. And so those are the little things that you'll be able to pick up and like implement. I mean, you doubled your income 2 months in a row right after you came back from that amount. I mean, that conference, was it worth it? Yeah,
Of course.
I would think so. Right.
Of course.
The other thing I wanted to ask you too is, you talked about talking to Sean and him giving you advice to compress timeframes, right? Like being able to go, hey, instead of going, taking your 15 families helped a week and stretching it out through, 6 or 7 days, doing it in 3. See, one of the things that was very funny too, and I'm so glad you said that, because I picked that up from Zach Trudowski, and he said, when you get really, really good, you can do in 3 days what it took you to do 6.
Yep.
He goes, now the difference is you got to build the endurance to get there.
That's good.
And so here's the thing, right? Like I want you to think about this. Like you can run a mile today, but can you run a mile again tomorrow, the day after, and the day after, and the day after? He goes, no, because like most people, they can do 3 days of tough premium of like 15 families in 3 days. And then the next month they're like, or next week, they're like, oh, can't do that no more, because they don't have the endurance to do it.
Right.
You got to train yourself to that. I remember when I made the switch, when I literally went from running, 6 days in the field to 4, then to 2, like it was like, you're very efficient in those days. Cause you're like, oh yeah, that appointment ain't going to be home. I'm not booking that one. Or if I can book it, but I'm not going to count it. Like you get really very intentional, was the word you used. Kind of like what Sean said, you're very intentional about the time slots that you have in your calendar.
I like to say, like, you become like a ninja. It's like a sixth sense. That's what happens.
And it's like, and what the crazy part is when you get good at that, you go, man, why didn't I do this before? Well, the answer is you weren't ready. You weren't ready. And kind of like you said, like there's so much gold in what you just talked about in that like short segment. You said you were sitting in the training and they were telling you what they were doing, setting the table, and nobody around you is taking notes. And you're like, are you kidding me? Because here's the thing, that was for you to hear. The guy next to you might not have needed that. Which is the reason why he wasn't taking the note on the same topic. By the way, this is why you should never ask somebody else for their notes, because you might be in a completely different place in your business compared to the person that's taking the notes. So like, I guarantee you, if Mac and I and everybody on this call, right, if we all sat in the same training and we looked at our notes afterwards, everybody's notes are different.
Yes.
Because we only took the note that we needed for that day.
It's truth.
And we might be in different places.
One thing I'm going to add to that is, and hey, excuse the example, but when you have kids, it just works. You guys remember Power Rangers when you were little?
Yep.
Right? They're getting beat up by those Goonies, whatever you call it, right? And they're the same kids that knew the same karate, but suddenly they got more of a time, Power Rangers, Green Ranger, blah, blah, right? And these same kids are all of a sudden able to whoop up on those Goonies.
Right.
What to your point, the whole goal of going to the national conference and going to events, you as you are good, but you need to tap into the Hulk inside of you, right? You need to get mad, right? You need to become super you. Well, if you could become super you yourself, you wouldn't need to go, but it is what it is. You do whatever you need to do to get there. And here's what we know. We're not experts, but we do know people who go to the national conference, they win.
Right.
People who don't, they don't. Why? Because they're able to morph, in essence, and become their super selves. It's always been in them, but they just either didn't know or they couldn't tap into it. They heard the right thing, they smelled the right thing, they saw someone who had maybe the same background, similar situation, had some kind of challenge. They're like, wow. And all of a sudden their mind just activates. And here's what I love what Jim Rohn said. He said, a mind once expanded never returns the same size, ever. It's as we know, those things you hear that you can't unsee it. in your mind.
Right.
You can't unfeel it anymore because now you're super and you'll never go back. And I'll give a plug to one of our agents. I think I know I got a permission to say this. She did what she had to do when she got in. I remember she actually put her truck on a title loan just to get there. And she was a student. She went to every, I don't know, I think you may have been one of them, Stephen. She's asking, hey, you're a Hall-of-Fame producer. Hey, what advice would you give a new agent? And she literally, Sean, Mike, literally every person there, she's writing notes. She came out of there, all of a sudden she's helping 20 families a month, like a beast. What happened? It was the same rows, but a different rows at the same time. So
right.
You got to change your mindset. And that only way you can do that is by getting to events, meeting people, and doing things. Those three things. They're like a triangle. This was a triangle. Sorry. I failed math class.
Geometry. So here's the other thing, right? Like, and I want to like tap into this. Like, people always ask me too, like, hey, how did you build and sell at a high clip? And for those of you that are taking notes, write this down. You sell to live and you hire to retire.
Mm-hmm.
You sell to live because you pay your bills with your personal pen. And then you hire to build a team so that you can eventually retire from being in the field. Because here's the other thing. You don't want to sell insurance for 37 years. That's not the goal. There's a lot of people that we talk to when we recruit on a daily basis. They go, hey, Mac, I've had an insurance license longer than you've been alive, son. And I'm like, and that's not a good thing.
Right.
Because I wouldn't be looking for a new thing to do if I've been in the industry for that long. Does that make sense? And so I share that because the way you get out of that, the way you get out of the rat race in insurance is by building a team. Yep. And so like what I did, and like John Wetmore put it so easy. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like I love the simplistic answers because like I'm always, you know, what's funny, Mac, is like when I'm looking for an answer to something that I don't know how to do, I'm always looking for a complex answer.
Right.
Because I'm like, if it was simple and I didn't know how to do it, man, I gotta be stupid. Right. But like, if it's complex, then I'm like, oh, that's why I didn't do it because,
sure,
you know, whatever. And I remember I was listening to John Wetmore. He's a Hall of Fame producer, integrity partner, big agency, all this good stuff. And someone asked him recently, and they're like, hey, how did you sell and build at a high level at the same time? And he goes, y'all run 20, 25, 30 appointments to protect families, right? They're like, yeah. He goes, yeah, I did too. And I just ran 25 interviews to hire people too. I did 25 and 25. That was my plan. Called it 25 and 25. 25 appointments to sell, 25 appointments to recruit. And he was like, what is that? Let's just say every one of them took an hour, which they don't. But let's just say they took an hour. That's a 50-hour work week. And I'm like, that's so good.
Hey, I'm taking notes, guys. It's good.
You know what I mean? And I'm like, that is so good. Because like Grady Polson says all the time, we have a selling muscle and a recruiting muscle, right? Like selling, recruiting, right? He's like, some of us just literally work out with our left arm the whole time. We never, ever recruit ever. And that's the thing that sucks is like, I remember listening to Andrew Taylor talk to one of our agents. He said, hey, Mac, your window, and this is brutally honest. That's why I love the answer. He goes, hey, your window to being a permanent agent for the rest of your life is closing in. He's like, because if you don't, he's like, the window for you to build an agency is almost gone if you don't start now for this agent, because he's been selling for such a long time, for a decade. Right. And he goes, and you still haven't built a team. So he goes, that skill set is almost going to, like, your skill set to build an agency is closing in. You're almost going to have to be an insurance producer for the rest of your life.
Forever. Let me add this too, if you don't mind me, Stephen. I hope you notice that the people we're learning from, it's not us. We're not saying in the book of Stephen, in the book of Mac, we just copy the right cats. Like, all I'm saying is, you may be looking at yourself saying, well, that's Grady, or that's, Zach, or whoever. That's John Wetmore. You don't have to be the best. You just have to follow the system. Going back to Grady, he gave at that conference I told you about earlier, he said a 10-10-10 plan. 10 people in class. So figure out however many interviews you need. 10 in class, 10 in contracting, and you do 10 families a week. That's it. So you figure out in your own system, and here's what I love. It's a numbers game. I used to be freaked out thinking and comparing myself to other great recruiters, but here's what kind of came to mind. There are people looking for you specifically. And you can do one of two things. You can believe in scarcity, or you can believe in abundance. You think, oh, Stephen recruited 10 today. Oh, that's 10 away from me. Not realizing there's millions out there. Right. It wasn't Stephen got them all. There's enough for everyone. And more importantly, there are enough people looking for you specifically, like your way of doing it, your how, your connection. That's just how God made it. There are people that aren't looking for Stephen on purpose because he's abundant in every way. You see what I'm saying? It's when I got that, oh, it liberated me so much where I wasn't judging myself on my current skill set. Whatever you got, that's all you need. Just go do the activity.
And quantity doesn't always win.
Right.
Quality wins too.
Mm-hmm.
Because you could recruit 10 bums today, and I recruited one decent one or one really good one. My one really good agent's going to win.
Right.
You know what I mean? There's a healthy balance behind that. And that's why I don't get caught up always with just those types of numbers. But, you know, that's, yeah, man, like Mag, like that part changed my business when I was able to, like you just said the whole thing. You said, you know, all our experiences, what we're talking about on this call is like, hey, we picked up this from this person, this from this person, this. You want to know in last convention plug, I promise. If I wanted to go fly to meet with John Wetmore, I have to go fly to Atlanta. If I wanted to go fly to be with Sean Mike, I got to go fly to Florida. If I wanted to go fly to meet with Matt Smith, I got to go fly to Oregon. If I want to go fly to Mark Mead, I got to go to New Jersey. And Andrew is in my backyard. I get it. But, you know, Trey and Paul McLean are in Southern California. If I wanted to learn from all these people, how much airfare would I have to spend to be able to get to these places? But on February 1st to the 4th, we're all in the same place. I spend one airfare to be able to get access because everybody's in the same location. Kind of like what you said with Rose. Like that's how I learned. I had like specific questions for every person that I was going to look and seek out. Like, for example, if I was a brand new agent, Mac, you're a Hall of Fame producer. Because on the badge, it says it, right? I'd be like, hey, you're a Hall of Fame producer. Give me one tip that took you from writing, 10, 15, 20 families to 40 a month. And then whatever you say, I'm taking down. And what you say might not even jive with me.
Yet.
It might.
Today. But you look at your notes 6 months from now, it's the lock you needed.
Right. And that's why I'm saying it's like, I had, like, when I went to conference, I was very intentional with who I was going to speak with and what question I was going to ask them. Like, people ask me all the time, like, they're like, hey, when you got your integrity deal, da-da-da-da-da. I was like, you know how many people I talked to about my integrity deal? Like every partner, I asked them questions. Hey, before you were closing, like, what was your staff makeup? Hey, before you closed, what was your deposits, gross net, EBITDA margin, da-da-da-da-da. Hey, what was your team doing? How did you grow? Like, I'm like you in a sense. I just asked a lot of questions and shut up.
Right.
And then when they gave me the answer, it was like going to a buffet. Like, I went to the buffet line and I'm like, oh, I don't want to have that. Cool. I'm going to walk right by it. Oh, that looks good. I'll take it, put it on my plate. Right. Some people gave me answers that I didn't like.
Right.
I'm just being honest with you. I'm like, I just wouldn't do it that way. Hey, but thank you. Like, I wouldn't say it, but like in my mind, I'm thinking it, but I'm still taking it down respectfully. But like walking away, I'm like, I just don't think that would fit with my personality. Then somebody else would give me the same answer to the same question, but worded their way. And I'm like, that's it right there. Right. And so like, that's why, I love what Rose said. It's like a scavenger hunt. And you have a list of people and you're trying to find these people and ask them specific questions because there's no reason why you would go to that event and not be able to pick up the information.
Why wouldn't you? You got the best of the best. If you would please give me the honor of being the last plug for conference. You guys are going to tell me this. I guarantee you, and I'm going to tell you when you come to me, I told you so. Your number one regret would be you didn't take enough people with you. I'm telling you right now. So knowing what we talked about, we're talking about Disneyland. We're talking about, Neverland, right? It sounds great. But I'm telling you, when you get there, you're like, oh, I wish I had 50 people here. And here's what you know. What we know. You help get 50 people to conference. Your business will run away from you. That's what Grady Paulson did. He figured out some way, somehow he got 50 people to conference. Their mind changed, that synergy. All of a sudden, just when 1 + 1 becomes 4, that's when it took off for him, because everyone was on the same page. So I know some of you are already committed to going. Some of you are thinking, well, I will go now. I wasn't before. It's not about you anymore. When this business becomes more than just about you, that's when it takes off. How fast can you get yourself going? How many people can you bring with you? That's the question. So just remember that. If you were thinking of bringing 1, bring 4. Figure out some way. And if this truly is what we're saying it is, and hey, we could just be high paid actors, right? Steven's probably better looking than me, so he's probably getting paid more than I am. But if it truly is what we're saying, how many people would you say, just get here, man? Just get here. Go to a conference.
Even if they went just to see our keynote speakers, it'd be worth it.
Yeah.
But here's the crazy part. The keynote speakers are really good. Like, they really are good. Like, we pay a top dollar to get them.
Mm-hmm.
I learn more from our own agents because the keynote speakers don't sell insurance. Does that make sense?
True.
So like, I can't go to Damon John, Shark Tank, and be like, hey, what's your lead strategy?
Right.
Not saying I don't want to listen to him speak. I definitely want to listen to him speak. But like, the stuff that I can implement in my business right now are the people that I get to work with, right?
100%.
And Mac's 100% correct. You're going to sit there and be like, man, I wish I brought more people here. Last thing I'm going to talk about during conference, it's a business trip. It's a business trip. Not saying you can't have fun, but like, don't be that guy that attended the national conference. You were there, but you never sat down and actually listened to the training because you were busy in the hallway talking to somebody else.
Right.
Like, it's not a networking event. It's a training event. And so like, although it didn't matter what level I was at, I was going to sit my butt on the floor. It's like what I'm talking about, floor seats, right? I was going to find a way to get to the arena early to have the floor seating so I can sit there and be able to be as close as the information as possible, because I'm like, why else am I here? I didn't take 3 days away from my family.
Come on.
Go hang out and talk to people. I wanted to go learn directly from the people. If someone's nudging me, hey, Steve, I had a question about this. Chill out, dude. I'm listening to so-and-so train right. You know what I mean? And so like, that's the thing. When you go to national conference, you got to go, hey, I'm going because it's a business trip and I'm going to learn something to implement in my business. It's not a hangout event. We have plenty of those. We have breakout rooms and all that stuff. We're going to learn. You know what I mean? So, Mac, we'll open it up for Q&A. If you guys have any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat or in the Q&A section. That'd be great. And you'll be able to have Mac answer the questions directly for you. But, you know, one of the last things I want to ask you before, you know, as everybody else is, you know, throwing at their answers, you know, Mac, like, this business, you said when you were writing protecting 20 families a month, like, so many people, in my opinion, they go, oh, 20 families means you actually make 20. No, you don't. With lead expenses, chargebacks, and all that, you make closer to like 8 to 12, my opinion, right? You said, hey, I was making that and I was actually interviewing for jobs, which if you have a big family like you do and you have, you know, kids to feed and a roof to put over their head, you have to. Can't let the family down. And then something just clicked for you to go, hey, from here to here, right? And I know a lot of that was the national conference when you went there and picked up some information. But so many people are not at the 20 going to 40. They're at the 3 going to the 7 to the 10.
True.
What would be your best advice for them?
I think the best thing I can tell you is everyone that's ever been in that position, I always ask them, show me your tracking sheet. Show me your dial sheet. Show me your activity sheet. You know the answer that I always get?
What is that?
What's that? I did a lot. Like how much? Well, you know, a little bit of this, a little bit. And hey, I'm being facetious, but not really. Every person, they're not tracking it. You know the difference? I tracked it, because if you can't measure it, you can't manage it. Truly, the number one issue is they're not working hard enough. We have agents. I remember a head agent about 2 weeks ago. He needed to make this work. I said, let me see your dials. And he wasn't tracking it. He started tracking it. He wasn't doing enough dials. He was doing about 200 dials. I said, man, listen, when someone tells me that they need to make this work, I get intense. I mean, we're like this, because I remember the feeling when I had a wife and kids that are depending on me, the dad. And I remember when I was a kid, when I had to go to the food stamp line, and I remember that. And I remember hey, thank goodness for America that they got, safety nets. I remember the feeling of just the embarrassment. And back in the day, guys, they didn't have a little card. they had a little monopoly money, right?
Yeah,
Where
you
you
had to
felt
rip
like
it
an
out of the
idiot.
booklet.
Right. You take the booklet out, people are like, look at this fool, right? Listen, none of that was happening for me. So when someone tells me they need this to work and they show me $200, I'm like, I thought you were serious. That's what I say to myself. And I said, listen, you got to get that at a minimum $500 to $1,000. And all of a sudden that agent, he said, okay. I said, hey, I don't care what's going on. You figure it out. Well, I got this. No. You're either serious or you're not. You can make excuses or you can make money. You can't make both. And all of a sudden he jumped his dials up. He went to $600, and who would have thought he started making money all of a sudden? So if you're at that position, it's only for three reasons. You're either not doing it right. So how do we know you're doing it right? We look at your activity. If you are for sure you're doing it right, well, it's because you're not doing it enough, right? You ain't making enough dials, like, right? And if you're Steven, whoever your upline is saying, hey, this guy's doing it right. He has the right, verbiage. He's not too excited. He's doing it enough. The only thing it could be, which in FFL, this doesn't normally happen, it's you need more self-development. That's it. But here in FFL, it's about work ethic. You can be a jerk as long as you're not a jerk to the clients, you're still going to sell, right? Usually, Stephen, to answer your question in short, they're just not working hard enough.
Yeah.
I guarantee it every time. Here's the numbers. You dial enough leads, certain number of people will answer the phone. You'll help a certain number of people. Certain number of people will say, go F off, leave me alone, pound sand. It's just a numbers game. The question is, are they willing to go through the numbers?
Right. I love it. So Sean asked a question on here. He said, do you only buy leads? Do you contact your warm market, door knock? What's your answer to that?
Good question. This is a leads business. I started off, the part of the reason that I started the business was I didn't have to call my warm market because I was in the NFL club, the No Friends Left club. And so I just simply dialed leads. That's it. And now I look back, hindsight, if I was broke like a joke, I should have gone ahead and actually helped and contacted my warm market too. I should have done that. I had a buddy of mine from high school. His dad took me to school. And I was almost prideful when I was doing okay at FFL that I didn't need to talk to my family, friends. This is a buddy, he had a business. I asked him to get in the business. He's like, I want to, but not right now. I didn't even think about, hey, man, I care about this guy. Let me ask him about his life insurance. This guy, this last year, got stomach cancer, 37 years old, losing his business. I know come on now. And I guess how I feel. I didn't reach out. So no, I work on leads primarily. They're like 95, 99% of my business. But that is not to say you should not at least make an attempt, because you're going to feel like a jerk when you don't help someone who should have had living benefits, right? But it's just leads, bro. Leads straight up. I have door knock. Those where everything works. I know we have an agent here, Sandra Kehoe. She just door knocked this whole month. That's it. Like the lead, she doesn't call them. She just door knocks them. She's at, I think, 30 families for the month of October. 30 families, just door knocking. So whatever your weapon is, it'll work. Guess what the difference is? The water, just add water, is the hard work in it. So get with whoever it is that is your lead, your leadership, and create a plan. The plan you have to be accountable to. There is no one I have ever known, I'm telling you, in FFL, you create a plan, you knock this amount of people, you make this amount of calls, who does not make money here. It doesn't exist. Every time I've made that bold statement, I will put my commission for the month on the line if you do X and it doesn't work. I'm just that confident because the numbers make sense. People fill the form out wanting life insurance. Come on now, we ain't calling strangers. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, I hope that was I was answering your question.
Yeah, another one is from Jordan. What did you do to raise your closing rate from 3 out of 10 to 6 out of 10, and what clicked for you?
The difference between a great producer and an average or mediocre producer are the questions they ask. That's the difference. In addition, in the beginning, I just went through. Maybe at the end, I wasn't sure whether they would bite or not. What I discovered as I listened to top producers who helped 60 families a week, 50 a week, I was like, wow, these guys ask a lot of questions. And it isn't like interrogation. They're literally trying to find the problem so that they can solve the problem. And they are so good, and I actually adopted this, where before they even present the options, the client's already bought from them. I was like, that's the difference. I started asking better questions to be able to identify the problem, painting the picture, finding out the why. I mean, I'll give you an example. Most people ask, who would be the person in charge? Who if you passed away? Your son, got it. We leave it there. I went in deeper. So, okay, is your son, is he local? Okay, so he would have to fly in, got it. So there's expense there. Now, is he got a good job, or does he have his own family? Yeah. Okay, so right now, if you passed with a good job and all, would he be able to just, come up with the 10, 20 grand, no problem, or would that put him out too? Oh, that would put him out. Got it. So you're trying to make sure that if you pass away tomorrow, you don't put him out, even though he could afford it. Am I getting that right? Yes. Got it. Okay. All right. So do you have any desire to leave any extra on top of that? You see what I'm saying? We're asking question, so that by the time we're done, it's like you're transfixed in that this is the most important thing. And then we get to the very end, before I even present the options, I'm like, okay, based on what we're looking at here, Stephen, it's like you bring $4,000 a month, your wife $6,000. If you passed, she would be completely up the creek because she would lose all that money with the kids. There wouldn't be any opportunity for them to be able to get raised. Things would get tight for her. So based on that and your meds, and we don't know what happens in the future, you drive quite a bit, you could die tomorrow. You guys are with me that we got to put something in place today, right? This is even before the options. They're like, yeah, perfect. All right, Stephen. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to give you the 3 options. That's why I'm smoking out every objection before I even get it. You see when you hear top producers say things like, I don't get objections. I used to like, what? Well, you guys got different leads or something? No, we just ask questions to get them all out. Yeah, it's the leads, right? No, we just smoke them out where they're irrelevant. Like we're like assassins. Boop, boop, boom, dead. Right? That's how your closing ratio increases. But yeah, at first it was 2 to 3 out of 10. Then now it's like, if I sit with you, it's probably like 70, 80% you're gonna buy. Yep. Or I'm leaving in 10 minutes.
Yep.
That's another thing.
Remember when I talked to you about that? I was like, hey, Mac, if they're not gonna buy, we're out in 12 minutes tops. And you're like, how? I'm like,
no, Stephen, don't do it. I'm like, hold on to his foot. Stephen, it's a sale. Let's try.
Like, no, you trust me. It's right. You just know. That's so funny. I love that. Hey, question from Rose. How do you teach a new agent to not get emotional about no sales, rejection, and etc.?
How do you teach a new agent not to get emotional about the sales objections?
No sales, not making any sales, rejection,
gotcha.
All that stuff. The negative connotation part of our business, I guess you can say.
I mean, for me, it's always been, let's get back to the basics. The same way you treat a client. We don't do it enough in this business. I focus on the why. Why are we doing this again? Okay, got it. So, and the truth be told is there isn't like a special magic sauce. We got to focus on the why, and you got to have landmarks. Like I'll give you an example. So for my wife, some of you know that she sells as well. You have to have landmarks. Even for me, you know what your why is, and so instead of looking for maybe changing the scoreboard is a better way to say it. If the scoreboard is sales, change that scoreboard. It's not sales, it's presentations. Right. Focus on a win. Yeah.
Focus on activity, not results.
On activity. Yeah. Focus. You learn how to win by winning. Focus on getting wins. So if you focus on the wins, you'll win. So I'll give you an example. When I was so discouraged when I started, meaning I didn't have confidence, not so much in FFL. I couldn't focus on the sales. I had to focus on the no's. I was that bad because that was a win for me. I'm going to get 50 no's, 100 no's. Yes. Yeah. No. I always joke around, but I was so, I had so little confidence. Someone would say, I would say, stop them. I would say, hey, let me finish it for you. Interested? Let me hang up for you. Like, it was like that, right? I look for the wins. So if you switch it around and look for the wins where like you almost psych them out or trick them, they'll literally skip their way to activity and actually winning. But they have to participate in their own rescue in helping with the why.
I'm going to take a stab at that. Here's one of the things. And for those of you that don't know, like I went 0 for 14 to start. Like my first 14 appointments that I sat on, nobody bought.
Wow.
So like people ask me all the time, like, why didn't you quit? And I was like, it was a horrible answer because there's a 2-part answer. Why didn't I quit? Number one, I knew Trey and Joe for a long time because I've known them for like 10 plus years. So like, therefore I was like, if they figured it out, I wasn't too stupid. So I'd eventually figure it out. That was part one. And then part two was like, what's the worst that can happen? Me go back to a job? I'm good.
Right.
And so like a lot of times we get objections, rejection, no sales and all that stuff. Like when we're dialing, from what I've seen so many times we're working with brand new agents, you know, the fear of objections and all that stuff is massive.
Yep.
We're not going to lie about it. Here's the best thing I can tell you is you're not going to ever eliminate it.
Right.
Matter of fact, if Mac and I got on the phone right now to call clients, we'd feel some type of nervousness.
Mhm.
It's kind of like when we played sports, right, Mac? Like
Right.
every game during pregame, you still have jitters.
Yep, I did.
Right. And it's just the way it is. And so like, I say that because, you know, I would always put a picture of my family right next to my station, right? My dial station or my computer or my phone, whatever it is. And like, this sounds so cheesy, but it worked for me. So I'm just giving you examples of what worked for me. I remember my wife and I had goals because we were trying to get married and have a family and start, you know, get a home and all that stuff. So like put a picture of my wife. And then when we had a family, a picture of our family. And I asked myself, does this stranger that doesn't know me and them telling me no or go to hell or whatever it may be, is that more nerve-wracking than not providing for the people that I love?
Like it.
And then it was like, let's say I wanted to quit today because like I got told no a bunch of times. I was like, cool, these people told me no a bunch of times. Can I look at the picture, right? Because like, you know, for right now it's on a phone. Can I look at my phone and be like, all right, let me tell my wife and my two kids, Daddy quit today because someone said no.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that like, oh my God, I'm feeling it right now. I'm like, that feeling that I have right now, I'm like, no, I'm good. I don't know these people. And like, here's the other thing. They're not saying no to you because they don't even know you. They're saying no to you coming over for life insurance, right? Like, matter of fact, if you walked into the grocery store with our clients, they wouldn't even be like, oh, that's the guy that called me.
Right.
They wouldn't even know who you are.
That's true.
And you're letting that person affect your day. That's crazy to me.
Yeah.
You know, and Dave Anderson said something at the last conference that was so good. He said, stop getting offended so easily. And I was like, oh, and he was like, because people that are easily offended are easily controlled.
Ooh, that's good.
And then I thought about it and I was like, oh, wow. Because like when I was brand new, I got offended often. And I would literally stop dialing because I got offended by a guy I didn't know. Matter of fact, I wanted to drive to his house, my hand in his face. You know what I mean? Like, but I'm like, well, that guy doesn't even know me. You know what I mean? And so like, I'll end with this. Like, once again, Wetmore making a complex answer so simple for me to understand. He goes, I'll give you an example of why you shouldn't feel this. He goes, like, for example, Mac, let's say you're driving on the freeway. Okay. Guy cuts you off. You cut him off. Y'all say some nice words to each other, right? Like, because we're inside of our car. That's what we do. Everybody's done it on this call. Y'all know exactly what I'm talking about.
Right.
Because we're because we're in a car behind something, right? We feel safe. Watch this. Mac, same example. You're at the grocery store. I am too. You're at aisle 9 and I'm on aisle 10 and we blindly bump cars. You know what we're going to say to each other? Hey man, I'm sorry.
So true.
The guy that just cussed me out 2 minutes ago.
It's true.
In his car. Now we bump cars. Sorry about that. Hey, have a good day.
That's good. It's true.
Dude, it's because they're behind something. So like everybody behind something, like we call them keyboard warriors, right? The people that will go online and talk all this mess, but they'll never say it to your face in person.
That's the truth.
That's some of our clients.
Yeah,
so I say that.
Keep going, Steve.
Say that again?
No, keep going.
So I say that because we got to remember that. We got to remember that our clients are behind the phone. They want to think that they're Mr. Incredible behind the phone. They won't say half these things to you in person. So someone asked about door knocking earlier. Door knocking was actually not very hard because most of these people wouldn't say those things to you.
That's the truth, right?
Just being honest.
Hey, someone has a question about chargebacks, asking if it was sounded high.
No,
I'll just take
40% of your business.
Yeah, 3 out of 10. If you have more than that, you're overselling.
Yeah. Matter of fact, like I had an agent tell me the other day, they're like, oh, this company, you know, their chargeback, da 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 da. And I was like, really? Maybe you don't sell enough insurance because like Colton Dewar, that was America. By the way, this is a verified fact. Colton Dewar last year was America's top 10 agent. And he sold at a very high clip with America. and his persistency is 77%. So like 1 out of 4 clients, not 1 out of 3. That's how solid his was. So I just think it's how you set it up and how you position it and how accessible you are, by the way, when you actually close the deal.
It's true.
Ed said, what do you mean when you got to dial faster? Do you let it ring the same amount of times every time? I didn't, my opinion. So like I triple dialed everybody. And then, by the way, we didn't have phone systems when I was dialing.
That's true, right?
We manual
That's
dialed.
true. We were doing it by hand.
Right. So like Ed, if I was calling you, it would be the first ring would be 4 rings. I'd hang up. Second call, 4 rings. I'd hang up. Last call, it goes all the way to voicemail. That was just me. And then what happens is I teach something called bounce back time. So the time between the first call and the second call, right? Here's what I mean. I make a call. I call Mac. Mac wants to be a keyboard warrior, sit behind a phone and scream at me and cuss me out. I hang up. Whew, I got to go get a water break because that one hurt. You know what I mean? And so between my first call and my second call, it took 3 minutes. Hall of Fame producers, they don't have a bounce back time because they're literally going next call, on to the next, on to the next, on to the next. That's what I mean by dial faster.
Yeah.
So when Mac was saying that he had an agent that made 200 calls for the day, I'm like, I made 200 calls in like 2-3 hours. You dial for 8 hours? What are you doing for the other 5?
Right.
So
it's true.
Right. But Mac, hey Mac, I appreciate you popping on, man. This was fun. This was great. And, being able to get content out, and especially for brand new agents, right? Like we're not talking to the 20, 30, 40, 50K producer here. We're talking about the brand new agent that needs it to work. And I feel like if we just keep them in mind always, we would always win. So
True.
Mac, thank you so much for hopping on and be able to share your mind with all these people. And Mac, can't wait to see you soon. See all you guys at National Conference. If you haven't had a chance to register, please do. And we will see you at the top. Be blessed, guys. Have a great day.